welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this, I hope we find you well. We are D3D4 Football, back for the 2021-22 season, covering all things League 1 and 2. For those who are new to us, D3D4 Football stands for Division 3, Division 4 Football. I'm a bit old school, but I think we've got a pretty good handle on the lower leagues in this country, the best divisions in the world. Certainly for excitement and parity, no divisions exist like them. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I am joined by my co-hosts as usual. We have Ed Walker, a whiz on all things lower league, especially League 2. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning, James. I'm feeling pretty good after yesterday. I hope you're all right yourself. Yeah,
I'm pretty good. We also have Gillingham fan David Jenkins joining us for the first time this season. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. Bit 50-50 this morning after yesterday's events, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
We will indeed. And Chris Stringer, who likes geology.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm feeling the same, James. It's a new season. Fans are back in stadiums, and Oldham lost to a last-minute goal. It's no change, really.
Scored by a 42-year-old as well.
Yeah. It's always fun.
It's always fun indeed. Right. Firstly, this podcast is brought to you in association with The Big Step, tackling gambling's relationship with football. If, like me, you've become tired of the saturation of gambling adverts in football, give these guys a follow at _Big Step on Twitter. They do great work, and it's an important cause. As we've said before, football is a very influential sport, especially on youngsters of a certain age, and I think having gambling adverts saturated in the sport is no good thing at all. You know, if like me, you're a bit tired of watching a certain sports channel and you get, is it Ray Winston telling you to gamble all the time? Every time. Yeah, it's not something we want to see, and that's why I'm absolutely delighted that we've partnered up with The Big Step for the 2021-22 season. All made possible, of course, by our patrons, who I absolutely love. They're so appreciated, the fact that they give us this support, they give us their help, and we feel appreciated by it. I mean, new patrons this week are David Conlin, Purso the Mark, and Chris Whiffin. Really appreciate you guys coming on and supporting us. It means that the pod is covered by you guys, the costs of running it, the cost of hosting it, the cost of hosting the website, and we don't have to have any pressure to take financial support from anyone else, and that's why we love you. Your support is, as I said, hugely appreciated. Right, well, opening day, guys. It's far too early to draw conclusions from the opening game of the season, despite many people on Twitter already asking for their managers to be sacked, the fact they need a whole new front line, and the referees cost them the game as per. But yeah, let's jump in and start, as we always do, in League 1.
League 1.
Right, so League 1, got to start at, is it the University of Bolton Stadium? It's always the Reebok.
It is the Uniball, as they call it on
U-Ball
Manchester Radio.
Still the Reebok to a lot of us, though, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. They drew 3-3. Bolton 3, MK Dons 3 was the final score, in a game which was pulsating, exciting, had some real class. Obviously, the last podcast we did, Russell Martin was still the manager of Milton Keynes, and obviously now off to Swansea. Firstly, well, do we begrudge him that, guys? I mean, let's start with you, Ed. Do we begrudge him leaving for Swansea right on the eve of the new season?
I look at the Swansea squad and think it's a bit odd. I don't know. I felt like what he had at MK was set up for a successful season, and he's kind of gone back to taken a step back to go to Swansea and have to build something again. So, yeah, I think it's a bit weird that you leave that close to the start of the season and leave MK Dons with a good group of players, but not necessarily a boss who can get the best football out of them. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, Dean Lewington took temporary charge. I actually think, and I was thinking about this before, if it's not going to be Jody Morris, then this might be the option that they should go for. He's been there for as long as time has existed, and basically, will have been part of Russell Martin's thinking in terms of the coaching and how he wants to play. So he'd probably be able to be keeping that continuity. The only thing is, I suppose, David, let me ask you about it. Do you always look at a player who's been there for a long time, been in that dressing room, and when they become a manager, they have to change their relationship with the players entirely? It can be quite difficult.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult situation, isn't it? Like, obviously, I think MK Dons in general, with Russell Martin going, it's never an easy situation when they go at this point. He's kind of taken the whole transfer window and then decided to go then. I mean, to be fair, as a Gillingham fan, a lot of the time we've had prior players that have come back as managers or other people. And of course, it's a different atmosphere entirely, isn't it? You've kind of got to, as you said, James, you've got to shift your entire way of thinking, change your relationship, and sometimes that can be particularly difficult. But if he can manage it, given how well rehearsed he is with the style of football that they play there, as you say, probably is their best option moving forward.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he does. They drew this game 3-3, as I say, and it was an exciting match between two sides. Now, the interesting thing about this is I wanted to know who would have more possession. Bolton, who were possession merchants down in League 2 last season, and MK Dons, who never have less than 65% possession or whatever in any of their matches last season, probably. It actually was exactly 50-50, the possession in this game, which is quite remarkable. I don't remember seeing that very often in a football game before, really, but 50-50 possession. Both had 4 shots on target. So interesting. I mean, actually, just checking it now, I wrote this down in my notes last night, so checking it again, it's now gone 51% MK Dons possession. So, Bolton, you let yourself down there, looking at that.
Yeah, but they got that Josh Sheehan free kick, which was fantastic.
Yeah, which was the better goal? Twine or Sheehan?
I'll go Sheehan's.
Yeah, I'm going Sheehan.
I think it was brilliant.
It was.
I think you'd have to go for Sheehan.
I do like that midfield, though, that MK have put together. Matt O'Reilly, Scott Twine, Ethan Robson. That's a nice midfield. I think Matt O'Reilly was probably one of the most underrated signings last season, and he's going to be an absolutely massive player for them. Josh Ian, though, played in that deep role, looked excellent, had lots of good touches, lots of good possession. Good to see Declan John having a good game as well at left back for Bolton. Overall, I mean, 3-3. I get the feeling from Ian that he felt his side were the better team and should have won, and you get that rhetoric from all managers, don't you? But not a bad start to a return to League One against a team that were quite fancy despite losing their manager.
Yeah, I think I expect these two sides not necessarily being the best sides, although we've sort of said MK Dons for the playoffs and Bolton mid-table looking upwards. But I think they'll be two of the most exciting sides this season.
Not going to be many 0-0s, is there?
No.
I mean, one thing MK had a problem with last season was they like to play out from the back, as we know. They like to keep the possession, but they do get caught in possession quite a lot in their own half, and that was kind of the case again yesterday. There was quite a few times they were caught out. Nice. I like the Harry Darling, the O'Hora and Zach Jules back line, that back three. I think it's good. Not necessarily convinced they will be the best in possession all the time. So, a bit of pragmatism might be needed at times. But Mo Issa getting on the score sheet. People criticised him, Ed, when he joined, saying, "Oh, he's only had one good season." But that's just not true, is it? He is a good goal scorer, and only really was kept out of the Peterborough squad last season because of Johnson Clark Harris's exploits.
No, I completely agree. I think he's a very nice player for this level, and he's 1-for-1 at the moment at the start of this season, and we'll see how it goes certainly throughout the whole campaign. But a great start for him. Yeah,
great to see him score. And again, 3-3. What a game! What a start to the new season. 16,000 fans back in that stadium, so good to see. There were 30,000 actually, or 31,000 at the Stadium of Light to see Sunderland beat Wigan. Much fancied Wigan after the transfer window. It was a game where
as Sunderland A versus Sunderland B. I saw this dubbed.
Well, how many
because of two
players?
Two,
yeah.
Three players, isn't it?
Three? I thought there was only two.
It's Wycombe Power, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wycombe Power. I didn't think of any others other than that.
Wycombe Power sounds like some really good sort of cleaning product.
Wycombe Power.
Anyway, back to the game. I mean, Wigan started really well. First sort of 20 minutes, they had loads of chances. They looked really dangerous. Took the lead, and I felt a bit worried for Sunderland at that point. But the quick response was exactly what they needed, because I have a feeling that if they hadn't got that, it would have been a very different game. Nevertheless, Sunderland played this game with no fullbacks. They had Carl Winchester at right back and young Dan Neil, who's a midfielder, playing at left back. And he struggled first half, I felt, and that was one of the problems in the early sort of stages of the game. But actually, big credit to how he responded. Much better in the second half. Sunderland a lot more solid.
In defence of the Winchester decision, he was a right back until Lee Johnson joined Oldham.
He seemed he did.
I seem to recall they were operating with what you call auxiliary fullbacks quite a lot last season, anyway.
Yeah, but
Had Max Power there quite a bit.
There are some questionable fullback decisions, but yeah, Winchester did come through his youth development playing as a fullback.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? At Boundary Park. Yeah, I mean, I would say they will be getting in fullbacks before the window closes for sure. And in fact, this Sunderland team, like quite a few we're going to be discussing, will look very different on the 1st of September than it does now.
Yeah.
I mean, Ross Stewart led the line. I felt really well, but there's not a lot of depth in Sunderland's attacking options. Lyndon Gooch had a good game. I thought he did really well.
I feel like young Callum Doyle is a name we're going to be talking about quite a bit this season.
Oh yeah,
17-year-old centre back, and they're raving about him already.
Well, he just doesn't look out of place at all, does he?
No, it's brilliant.
Professional men's game. You're playing at a club that will give him that sense of having to play under pressure, because I think the expectation at the Stadium Night is going to be massive.
And the facilities for a young Premier League player to be coming down to League One, you're not going to get better facilities that are going to be like the ones you used to in the Premier League.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing though. When I look at that Sunderland back line, you've got Dan Neil, who's a midfielder, playing left back. You've got a 17-year-old in Doyle playing centre back, and age is only part of it. I mean, he's good enough, so age didn't really matter. But then you've got Flanagan and Winchester. This is not a back line that you would probably go, oh, this is one for automatic promotion.
Yeah.
It's a bit makeshift. And then they have obviously Evans and 09 in the sort of holding role. But I thought the man of the match for me was Elliot Embleton. I thought he was superb. Yeah. He had 81% pass completion rate, which is the best of any Sunderland player. And in fact, it was only bettered by Callum Lang, but he had way more passes than Callum Lang during the game. So kind of sort of goes to show why he was so influential. He had some nice touches. I think he's grown a lot as a player. That little loan spell, was it to Blackpool last season?
It was.
Has done him the world of good. And in Embleton, Sunderland have a player that I think they can expect a massive future from. I mean, he's looking really good. So huge win. Wigan, a lot of things to like about sort of the early part of that performance, and I think they will still do really well. You look at their team, there's just quality. There's quality everywhere, really. But they will be disappointed to come away with a defeat from the first game. But, yeah, like I said, it's one game in. Their chairman tweeted out that, it's going to be a long season, so let's not get too...
it's about as tough a game as you can get for the first one, really.
Well, I think it was a big test for Sunderland as well. Because, people have criticised their recruitment, and you compare these two teams side by side, and that is the team that Sunderland generally have been compared to, actually. When you look on Twitter at the comparisons between recruitment, they're going, look at how many of these Wigan have got, why aren't Sunderland doing it? But to win for Sunderland, bit of indication perhaps that their slower approach and more meticulous approach perhaps to recruitment, they do have, they've got irons in the fire, no doubt about it, but they're not willing to be ransomed for a high price, which I think is fair enough. Don't want to get to bogged down in big contracts when that has cost them a lot in the past. But a good win for Sunderland. Performance of the day. I mean, this is not little old Borkham, and I don't mean to be patronising here, but you have to say go to a team who have got such a strong squad like Ipswich have, and get a 2-2 draw and almost win it. 2 goals from Cole Stockton, who was superb. I mean, he's just been superb since going to Morecambe. What a result, guys. I mean, I'll start with you, Ed. The 4-3-3 that Robinson chose to play, that's a pretty brave formation to go to Ipswich on the first day and sort of really quite gung-ho.
Yeah, but I think it's what we've come to expect from Morecambe over the years. They know about the size of the club, but they've never had this sense of being afraid of anybody. I think, and that will be their approach, I reckon, to this season as well. They know that they're probably unfancy for a lot of games, but yesterday, is a really good example of how competitive they could be. To go to Ipswich, who are among the league favourites to many people to be at Portman Road and to be a couple of minutes from actually winning the whole thing. That's such a good indication of what could be a very good season for them.
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing performance all round. I mean, brave, energetic. Don't think they were at any point really too wide. I mean, yes, they had to sit back. They only had 33% of the possession, but that was always going to be the case. You know, they were always looking to use the pace of like Arthur Ganoa, who I think was sort of on the right hand side of their attack three, and McDonald on the other side. Wes McDonald, both pacey, both good with the ball at their feet, and then having someone to play off in Stockton. I thought that worked really well. And with Diagoraga and McCalmont in midfield, McLaughlin as well, that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of. I mean, I think Diagoraga's experience will be key when he's got someone like McCalmont next to him. And I just really like what they did. I think real huge credit to them. What do we make of Ipswich, Chris? Because Paul Cook, a lot of transfers, going to take a little bit of time, but overall, you look at that squad and it's quite exciting times for.
Fraser's off the mark already.
Well, he had 92% pass completion rate. He completed 24 out of 26 passes.
You're just describing Scott Fraser here. This is what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Absolutely brilliant. And Connor Chaplin as well, 100%. Didn't put a pass wrong all game. 18 passes made, 18 completed. I mean, they have got some remarkably talented players in this Ipswich team.
Yeah, I'd say yesterday they'll be disappointed but not totally disheartened. I mean, you picked out Fraser as a good start. I don't think Piggott had a bad debut either. Obviously coming off a little bit earlier and would have been wanting to get on the score sheet. But I don't, I think, as you say, it's a season of transition. They'll be disappointed with, it's a squad of transition, sorry. They'll be disappointed not to have won the game, but, give them 2 or 3 more games and I think they'll be settling into this season nicely. There is such quality in that squad.
I hope Kane Vincent-Young has a good season. He had such bad luck with injuries since joining Ipswich, but he was so talented. Even when he first arrived, he sort of came out the traps exceptionally well, and then obviously the injury set him back. But yeah, a lot to like about this Ipswich team. But man of the match, probably player of the day, Cole Stockton. Just took his goals exceptionally well. So cool. I have to say, not how he played in his earlier career. He's been transformed. And I know, Ed, you say, Morecambe have never been afraid of anyone, but I think they were stuck in a little bit of a small club mindset at the end of Bentley's reign, because they were always fighting at the bottom, and they were, just to stay up was considered a success. I think Derek Adams said, no, we're not having that anymore. Let's think big. Let's change the mindset, and they've carried that on into the new campaign with a great draw at Portman Road, 2-2 final score between Ipswich and Morecambe. Fleetwood started with a defeat at home to Portsmouth, finished 1-0. Nice goal in the end by Lee Brown, left-footed right back across the keeper. I actually thought Shaden Morris played really well in this game, and I've only seen the highlights. I haven't watched the full match, so it's very hard to contextualise how he performed across the 90 minutes. But he looked dangerous. He looked like a player could cause problems, and I think Fleetwood did at times cause Portsmouth a lot of problems. Danny Cow saying Pompey lacked a bit of intensity, which they'd had in pre-season. But nonetheless, a big win for Pompey. And at that front four at Fratton Park this season, I mean, that will be key if they want to really challenge any higher than we've suggested they will do.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about it, isn't there? We know what Ronan Curtis is about. We've seen what Marcus Hart's been about in the past. Marquis can be a very reliable goalscorer at this level if the service is right into him. We're really keen about Gasson Ahadme, aren't we, after that pre-season format?
Graham Ahadme.
Yeah, Graham Ahadme, come on.
We'll call him Graham.
Right.
Gasson or Graham Ahadme. After his form in pre-season, certainly. That's curious how that's going to go. There's a front four to really like there, but there's a few teams with good front lines as well, so we can't just single out Portsmouth.
No, I think
we've had the supporting Marquis more this season, because that was the thing that frustrated me so much.
Well, Marquis was often the one supporting others, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
Ellis Harrison ahead of him.
That was sort of the problem, which is a ridiculous way to use Marquis.
Yeah, I think Danny will get the best out of this team, and I think, like I said, he's still looking to add to this squad. They do need a bit more, but I mean, to go to Fleetwood is not an easy start. And to get a win, you take it every time up there. You take
the best thing about going to Fleetwood is getting a win and not having to hear that goal music.
Yes, I've been mentioning that.
That's a double victory for Portsmouth yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I've been mentioning that to a few Pompey fans. And Sheffield Wednesday fans, if you're listening to this, you've got that to look forward to when you go to Fleetwood. The most memorable goal music in the Football League. Whether you like it or not is... well, if you like it, I question your musical taste, frankly. But
it's soul-crushing, though.
But yeah, it's not... Yeah,
it is when you get beaten there.
Yeah, if you're not already disappointed enough to be getting rained on and frozen on the field, to be then 1-0 down and that music going off.
Yeah, it can be a tough take. But Portsmouth fans were spared it. They got the 1-0 win. Great start. Lincoln, a team we very much fancy, they started really well at Gillingham, got a 1-1 draw in the end. But this game, David, massively overshadowed by an incident after Lincoln scored the goal. Now, Lincoln players ran into the corner in front of the Gillingham fans, and maybe that's unwise, but frankly, no excuses at all for what then happened. Gillingham fans came, pushed, attacked, whatever you want to call it. There was some physical interaction between the fans and the players, and then an incident took place of alleged racism. Cohen Bramall, the unfortunate recipient, and it looked very much like, yet another incident, an ugly incident in the game of football, which I'm getting so tired of this and frustrated by this, because at the end of the day, we've had this whole summer with problems to do with racism with the England team, and Michael Appleton said we're just not sorting the problem. No one is learning, and actually my concern here is racism has become very much normalised. And it should not be normalised. And to me, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, why would you abuse someone for the colour of their skin? It makes about as much sense as abusing someone for the colour of their eyes. I mean, I abuse Ed because he supports Burton, which is fair enough. But frankly, this is a disgusting incident, yet again, rearing its head in football. And David, you've already said it to me privately, but it's just really embarrassing for Gillingham, isn't it?
Frankly, it's embarrassing to be a fan yesterday when you're sitting in the stadium and that kind of incident is happening. Obviously, when you're in there live, you're not really sure what's gone on. We can kind of see it from context, but it was difficult until after the game, and I spoke to one of the stewards that was involved in kicking those fans out. From what I hear, it was a couple of fans that made some comments. Got the two fans that got a bit argy-bargy as well. Yeah, it's just not acceptable in whatever way you think of it. And actually, to be quite honest with you, I'm disappointed with a lot of the fans in the stadium that then proceeded afterwards to just boo the guy throughout the entire game. And I just, obviously, understandably in some ways, because they don't know what's gone on and they just think something's happened. But when you learn that kind of news, it's absolutely disgusting. In terms of the actual game, honestly, a draw is probably fair. Gillingham were very lucky to even score, to be honest.
Who got Gillingham's goal, please?
It's still
debate.
Well, my impression was it was given to Vidane Oliver. The club tweeted out yesterday, like while we were watching the game, club tweeted out at half time that it was Oliver. But it's debated between the two of them. But some people were already going on about it being a goal of the season contender. It's a fantastic goal. But in seriousness, Lincoln played some really good football, actually. And actually, Bramall dominated Bennett on that line.
He's rapid, isn't he, Bramall?
He's so quick. And he just... I mean, you can tell that Reece Bennett is not comfortable playing right back, and he just kept getting in behind the whole time. First half was not very good for Gills. You could definitely tell that the pre-season had not been there as significantly as it had been for Lincoln. Both teams had extra chances to take the game for the win. Neither did. Vidane Oliver had an opportunity. He could have just smashed it. He decided instead he was going to try and chip the keeper, and just didn't work for him. But yeah, I think 1-0 was a fair result. But yeah, in terms of the incidents that happened off the pitch, I echo your sentiments, James. It's not acceptable. Today, waking up, it still leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. It's an embarrassing time to be a Gillingham fan when some individual fans think that this is an acceptable way to treat anybody else.
Yeah, and you say it yourself there. It's embarrassing, isn't it, for Gillingham? I mean, it shouldn't do, but it will taint Gillingham fans, and their reputation, because that's how things work. And unfortunately, we're seeing far too much of this in football again. Certainly, the prevalence of racism is coming back to a greater extent than I can remember it in my lifetime, which is really worrying. And it's just not acceptable. It's just disgraceful, frankly. I like I say, I don't understand it. I really do not get how you ever would abuse someone for something so insignificant as like their ethnic background or the colour of their skin. It's just stupid. But let's hope the club react with the right sentiment here and take a strong action against those fans. I would imagine lifetime bans would be...
Well, if there's anything like how Paul Scally was mentioning pre-season, he mentioned that, should anybody at the club in any way, after watching the Euros and how that panned out, he said if any of that kind of happens, then he'll be looking at lifetime bans and stuff. So I just hope that he kind of sticks to his word and kind of carries that out, finds out who they are and stops them from coming in because, we don't tolerate that.
No, and that's the exact right attitude to take, indeed. Newly promoted clubs then. So Cheltenham, they went to Crewe. They got a 1-1 draw. Cambridge and Oxford played out a 1-1 draw. I think both Cheltenham and Cambridge will be very pleased with their afternoon's work, getting a point as they sort of come up into a much more difficult division. They're both expected to struggle or be among the teams at the lower end of the table. Despite Cheltenham having less possession, as you'd expect going to Crewe, they did create more chances. They had 6 shots on target to Crewe's 1, which...
Given the equaliser, though.
Yes. Yeah.
That wasn't a good... I can't remember who played the pass across, but it was not good.
No, it wasn't, was it? But, I think if you'd said to Michael Duff, first game of the season away at Crewe, you get a point, he'll probably be happy with that. Crewe will... I don't know. I mean... We're not sure how Crewe will do this season. I was intrigued to see how they lined up. Charlie Kirk expected to leave, I've heard. Do we know where? Anyone? I didn't see who he's meant to go to, but reports suggest that he's
Championship club, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember. I heard it's being finalised on Monday, so that will be.
Apparently Charlton.
Is it Charlton? Really?
It was with Charlton. I think it was the Charlton link in the winter. Might come back again. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what South London Press are reporting.
Okay, interesting. I mean, again, that would be a huge loss because they would have lost literally Pickering, Wintle, NG, Kirk, all in the space of the same summer, essentially.
And you're not just losing their quality, you're losing their team chemistry, having been together for so long.
Yeah, and also, they do run matches for this team. Those guys are the ones that, if you look at how well they retain the ball, how much they complete passes and they just run the game for this team. So to lose them all together, that's a big ask. Now I do have faith in David Artell and the Crewe youngsters that he bring through, but like I say, transitioning in this season of all seasons, when you look at the quality in this division, that's going to be quite tricky. But again, Michael Duff's side, a big point for them on the road. Like you say, Ed, not the best way to concede, but it's a hugely... It's pretty much the same team, isn't it, that they had, apart from the goalkeeper, playing last season. I mean, there is literally no players in this Cheltenham starting lineup apart from Evans in goal, who wasn't there last season. So the continuity has remained, and be interesting to see how they do across the season. A bit more depth probably needed. There's been quite open discussions about their frustrations in the transfer market this summer. A lot of clubs able to sort of outbid them for players, and when you're Cheltenham, I suppose you have to accept that to a certain extent. It is always going to be the way of it. Cambridge, things don't change at all. I mean, 1-1 draw, but Wes Houlihan was running that game for them. He was so good.
Shock.
Yeah, shock indeed. I do question how they'll do if he picks up an injury or he doesn't. Last season he hardly played any of midweek matches. I think they had to manage him quite carefully. So. But actually, Shiloh Tracy was a really dangerous threat on that right-hand side for Cambridge. They played with the sort of same gung-ho intensity against Oxford that you'd expect them to. Didn't show didn't show us too much respect. Didn't show any fear. I thought it was a pretty even game, and certainly don't agree with Carl Robinson's comments that Oxford dominated and should have won. I think we had the better chances, and I think that's
Does Carl Robinson ever say anything else though?
Probably not.
James, I wonder, do you consider this to be a derby? Like an
No.
Oxbridge derby?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
no,
say,
we're not.
Is it like
the boat race is different to this.
The boat races between
I mean,
two
you have
ancient
to ask
universities.
these. You have to ask these things just to
It's
clarify.
the boat race derby. We're having that.
Yeah, we're looking for a new
Stuff.
podcast co-host. David is leaving the pod. No, it's not a
Charlie
derby.
Kirk is also linked to Sheffield United
Ah,
on a 500k move.
Ooh.
that's a pittance if they get for that.
Just came out from the Sun and MSN have put it out today about an hour or so ago that apparently they're approaching
Okay.
a £500,000 bid for him.
I can't wait till he moves to Wrexham. That'll be good.
Yes,
Oh,
we'll come on to Wrexham and their coaching players. But yeah, so 1-1 draw there. 1-1 draw for Cambridge. Very good result. I thought Oxford were a little bit disjointed, to be honest. And Billy Bowden's penalty claim, it was not a penalty. So let's not go there, Oxford fans. I am as yellow tinted glass as everyone else. But no, it was not a penalty. And Cambridge was fair enough. So a 1-1 draw, fair result, I think, on the day. Good to be. It's enjoyable to have Oxford back playing at the Abbey Stadium, a ground that, last time I went there, we were both in the conference. So football changes quickly. AFC Wimbledon beat Doncaster Rovers 2-1. Ayoub Assad is a player I absolutely love. This kid is just magic, and he should have probably had 2 goals in this one. Did get one in the end, and a big win for Wimbledon away at Doncaster. Richie Wellens' side will be, Richie Wellens will be disappointed with the result, no doubt about it. But a good result, Ed, for a Wimbledon side who, let's be honest, in our pre-season predictions, we probably were a little bit harsh on. I mean, it's difficult to say after one game, but they did play quite well.
Well, as we said, this is going to be a nightmare. We had a nightmare trying to predict those relegation spots anyway, because this league's looking so competitive overall. Fantastic start to Wimbledon. You can't really say after one game, can you?
No.
I don't think we can really jump to any conclusions within this first month. You typically find around 10 games in is when you really see the table start to take shape. So 9 games from now, we should get a really idea of what this team could do. But that's a fantastic first game.
Interesting to see how this front three for Doncaster does, because I'll be honest, I mean, none of them are players that I'm particularly familiar with. You've got Charlie Seaman in there, Thiago Kukur, and Aidan Barlow, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do. I think yesterday, maybe it's hard to say on the first game of the season whether it all clicked for them. I know Omar Bogle came on. I mean, Omar Bogle has not played that well since his Grimsby days, and I'm struggling at times to understand why he's got such credit in the bank with managers, because he doesn't score goals.
Very good agent.
Maybe, but if he doesn't score goals in a Richie Wellens team, then he's not going to. So it's a big season for him. We'll see how that all pans out. Rotherham beat Plymouth 2-0. Plymouth's defensive woes continue. A lot of the fans were so frustrated by the goals they conceded. Not a surprise, though, to see Rotherham play and start strongly. They're a good team. Nice to see Ben Wiles on the score sheet. I think he's a great young player who, last season he was basically playing left back, wasn't he, in the Championship, just due to injuries. And he was back in midfield in that sort of a 5-man midfield, I suppose. They had Benny on the right and then Miller on the left. Barlaser is going to be a very good player at this level. But I think the thing for Rotherham is, and you look at their front two of Smith and Ladapo, pretty formidable, Ed, isn't it? That
Certainly at this level, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll.
I really like Freddie Ladapo from his Argyle days, and interestingly, I noticed he was actually celebrating in front of the Argyle fans when he scored. I thought he had a good relationship with them. It turns out he doesn't.
I still
By the looks of it.
This is the same Ladapo that played at Oldham. I still struggle.
Yeah, but Oldham.
We kill strikers.
Exactly.
We kill strikers.
They never play well until they leave Boundary Park. Luke Jeffcott, a lot of people criticising his continued struggles. Ed, is that one game in is a bit unfair, but he hasn't had.
He's a player all about service, though, isn't he? He puts them away. He's not going to create his own goals. So I would say if there's a reason he's out of form, it might have something to do with what's being put into the box for him.
It might do indeed. Wycombe beat Accrington 2-1. Gareth McCleary with 2 absolutely brilliant goals for Wycombe in this. The Chairboys coming out of the traps really quickly, getting into a 2-goal lead. Accrington got late to consolation, but no doubt I think that this result was a fair reflection of the game, and the Chairboys definitely deserve to win it. And I watched the Charlton Sheffield Wednesday game. Sheffield Wednesday will take that. First game of the season. Their first 11 looks really strong. Darren Moore, I think, will be very happy with. They've got something to build on. Barry Bannon looks an absolute baller. I mean, what?
Shock.
Yeah, did you see that? The move? Where
the little dribble, yeah, and then he drags it wide, unfortunately, at the end. If he'd scored that, that would have been unreal.
Was that the one where he nutmegs the defender?
Yeah.
He did the difficult bit.
Gets to the edge of the box and just drags the shot wide, and it's a shame.
What do we think of Sheffield Wednesday, looking at the signings they've made since we did our last podcast? That they're looking stronger and stronger, aren't they?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of loanies in, which is not what you want. You don't want to have a squad full of loanies, but if they're effective in this third season, then good on them.
I mean, after the troubles they were having, I think just get good players in. I don't think it matters too much.
I think at this level,
you can build next season.
At this level, you don't need permanent signings as such anyway. Like, loan signings will do for kind of League 1, 2 level.
But if you are pushing to the Championship, which you'd hope they are, when you want to have some more people that you know you're going to have around the following summer.
I think ideally you would, but I think given their situation, I mean, you know,
I don't know whether they had a choice or not, really.
No, I don't think they did. I think they're up against it financial fair play wise as well. So, you know, the owner can't just chuck more money in. That's the problem. And of course, where they've had no fans for a year, that cash flow has been, for them, they rely quite heavily. Sheffield Wednesday are one of the clubs that rely really heavily on the fact that they get a lot of cash in on the turnstile. So
just resell the stadium.
Well, sell it back to the club for £1 and then buy it back for another, 60 million quid? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems legit to me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. No shady problems with that. That's completely legit. That's called creative accounting. It's allowed, isn't it? Burton, finally, we come on to Burton. They got a 1-0 win at Shrewsbury Town. Ed, I'll leave this on to you. Talk us through this one.
Yeah, a decent result certainly from a Burton perspective. Third time they won the opening day game for 6 years. First time they haven't actually lost the opening day game for 6 years, which is quite a nice trend to bring to an end of. In terms of the game itself, first half I felt Shrewsbury were quite ineffective, quite direct with a lot of their play, trying to force passes up to the front line that either were caught offside or were just hit too long and would end up coming into the Ben Garrett or go out for goal kicks. Burton get the lead through a typical John Braither goal, a deep corner hit by Johnny Smith, and Braither just loops a header back across goal and into the net. Second half, Shrewsbury certainly were the better side, for sure. They had a lot better of the ball, putting some good crosses in. But the thing is, even if Burton weren't actually dealing with the crosses necessarily themselves, they were just bodies on the line, just being able to block all the attempts that came their way. It was a very rugged defensive performance, very much what we've come to expect from Jimmy Thorpe-Hasselbank's side, really. Not particularly a pretty win, but the 3 points is something you'll always take on the opening day, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think Steve Cottrell felt his side deserved something from the game. And not that impressed with Bowman, to be honest. He did look quite ineffective in that game. I wonder, though, if this is, again, one of the teams that you look at and you think their team will look different on the 1st of September. Shrewsbury is definitely one of them.
There's a lot more clubs than that this season, I've noticed. There's normally a couple of clubs, particularly that you expect to be down at the bottom of the tables making late signings, but it seems that everyone's making late signings this year.
Well, I think there's the value in that, isn't there? I think,
yeah. But yeah, that was always the thing under Simon Corney at Oldham, which has been carried forwards. If you sign them later in the season, you have to pay them for one less month.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite simply.
Right, let's jump down and have a look in League 2.
League 2.
And quite a lot of sort of late goals in League 2. Not many high-scoring games, apart from Rochdale, who continue to make sure that they allow goals so cheaply. But they do score them still. They lost 3-2 at Harrogate. They were 2-0 down like in no time at all, weren't they? But credit to them, they fought back well. And then they concede sort of again late in the game. What was the timing of Burrell's strike? It was in stoppage time, wasn't it?
I've got it at the 91st minute here.
91st minute, there you go. So, I mean, how disappointing that will be for Robbie Stockdale's side after they, basically did really well to turn around a 2-goal deficit. Inside 10 minutes, they were 2 down. Luke Armstrong and Patterson scoring the goals for Harrogate, new signings, both scoring on their debut. I think Newby will have a good season. I look forward to seeing how he does at this level. I think he did okay in League One for Dale, and I think for that reason, he should be a pretty potent threat for them in the fourth tier.
He's had quite a cry, but I remember he was playing in non-league for a club called Clitheroe, which is sort of around the Burnley, Lancashire area.
Yeah.
I actually watched him playing for them.
Did he stand out? No?
Yeah, he was a standout. There were a few standouts in that front line, which you get with quite a lot of non-league clubs, I think. Did I ever think he'd be playing this high up? Maybe not, but he's a very good player.
And there's a rematch of this one on Tuesday.
Yes,
yeah, there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exact same fixture in the League Cup.
Quite interesting. We'll see. Certainly the result of the day, for more reasons than one, was Swindon's 3-1 win at Scunthorpe. You know, from having 5 players only a couple of weeks ago and potentially no club, they've got a pretty strong 11 now, and they've shown Scunthorpe fans why we also worried about their team. You know, a 3-1 defeat at home to Swindon on the opening day of the season, a Swindon team that was put together almost as late as Oldham's. And we'll come to that. But it's a terrific result for Swindon, isn't it, Chris? Because, you know, like, honestly, I have no malice towards them in terms of wanting any harm to come to their club. Yes, there are rivals, but it was actually really quite heartening to see them get a win and just kick off a new era in really positive fashion.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's fantastic to see that takeover go through and hopefully put behind the madness of the last couple of years. What really stood out for me, I think it was the second goal, was the way the whole team came together to celebrate in front of the fans, and it's that sort of passion and unity that will get them out of this mess this season, which is, you know, I still think it's going to be a difficult season for them, but playing the way they did yesterday, they will hopefully have enough to stay up. Really worrying for Scunthorpe. You know, we picked out 3 sides that have struggled this season: Swindon, Scunthorpe and Hartlepool, and Scunthorpe really didn't show much to change my mind on that yesterday.
Right, so the stats, I know you can't take too much from game stats, but Scunthorpe only had 38% of the possession. They only had 11 shots to Swindon's 16, 4 shots on target to Swindon's 8.
I dream for that many shots on target.
Yes. But Scunthorpe, yeah, again, their goal came from the penalty spot. It's a worrying time. If you're a Scunthorpe fan, it's a worrying time. Now, I know their keeper came off. I assume that was an injury to Bilton and not anything reflecting on his performance necessarily. But just like they just have no depth at all. They do look like a team without even a very strong core either.
It's a bit Southend, isn't it? There's a lot of young players as their reserves.
Yeah.
If you look on the bench, it's just players. I've realised as well, it's quite depressing. You look through a lot of squads, there's a lot of 2000 born players now.
Yeah, but that
like a 97 born player is old now. That's weird. I used to think it was a shock when I saw people born in the 2000s, and now I'm getting people born in 2001, 2002s, 2003s.
2003.
I'm getting old.
Oh, shut up, Ed. You're not getting old, trust me. Trust me, I'll have to go and have a stretch off after this, doing this podcast, just sitting here. Oh dear, you guys are far too young.
Callum Doyle was born in 2003.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I'm
be
about.
quiet, honestly.
And he's playing centre back for Sunderland.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Anyway, right, before I have to dodder off from a nightcap and have my nap, let's dissect that a little bit more then. So, you've got a goalkeeper who's fairly young, backed up by a goalkeeper who hasn't yet really been very good in Rory Watson. You've got George Taft, who I think is a good centre back.
He's a decent left side defender. Manion Arisa's not bad either.
Yeah, wasn't playing yesterday, I assume. Injury? Maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I think he was on the bench. I think they just went with
Davis.
Harry Davis instead, yeah.
Yeah, and they got Kenyon and Loft, and that's your core. I mean, it
doesn't fill me with optimism.
No, it doesn't fill
They're not bad players, those ones, but they're not enough on their own, you'd have to say.
Well, they're not bad, but they're not the ones that you want to be as fine of your team.
No, I mean, you look at Swindon's team, right? Wallacott is a good goalkeeper. You've got Baudry and Conroy, who are part of the promotion side under Wellens last time.
Rob Hunt as well.
Rob Hunt's really good. Still fairly young, left back or full back, and play both sides. You got Grant in the centre of midfield and Jackie Payne. Gladwin as well in that team, and Harry McCurdy is a good signing if he can just finally concentrate on playing football and not being such a Burke. Yeah.
If he did, they've got one of the best players in the league, really talent-wise, you have to say.
Oh, there's never been a doubt, has there, about his technical ability?
But there's a reason he's still playing in League Two.
Yeah. It's the reason he struggled to find a club as well. You know, speaking to people who've worked with him before, I mean, he takes some managing. So, hopefully...
I should mention as well, Louis Reed, I think, is an excellent signing.
Yeah.
I really like that one from Peterborough. Great midfielder.
Oh, yeah. I was very shocked about that, actually. I didn't think Swindon would pull that off. I heard rumours about it, I think, a little while ago. But I thought, nah, they're not going to get him. But they did, and they got a 3-1 win to start the season. So, brilliant stuff, to be honest. Oldham lost 1-0 to Newport. The highlight of the game is a 42-year-old scoring the winner.
What a header.
Cheers, James.
What a header. That man only scores good goals. I can't think
It was
of
a good header. It was a good header.
He has scored some sensational goals in his time.
I still think Persiani should do better, though.
He probably should, but let's not take it away from Kevin Ellison. That was great. I mean, the problem for Oldham as well is you don't want to be signing 4 players that are going to start the game on the morning of the game.
Well, in fairness, we did sign them a few days ago. We just were playing games with Newport.
No, it was about paperwork.
It didn't work, did it?
Well, the problem we have as well is that we had 5 players out due to either having COVID or being isolating as contacts. We also, as part of our policy of signing young players, Neil Dan's registration didn't go through in time. Who is 38, just for...
Sorry, did you just say young players and Neil Dan?
Yep. the 38-year-old spring chicken. Yeah, it's... Same.
Is that actually happening, Neil Dan's?
I believe so.
Are we back in 2010?
I believe he's been on trial with the club, and if rumours are true, he's the player that Keith Curle said there were registration issues, so he didn't sign in time.
That's quite crazy, though, isn't it? To sign. I mean, yeah, it was 4 players announced to go in the team. Obviously, we're not sure what's happened to Lookweiler. I have no idea where he is.
Yeah, so I was wondering if it was a fitness issue, but apparently it's not. So I'm trying to find out more.
You do realise when Neil Dans was last playing after he left Tranmere? He left Tranmere, went to Radcliffe Borough, played for Halifax Town, has been in Wales with Connors Key.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's why there's a registration issue, because it needs the Welsh FA's approval as well.
Does it class as international clearance even from Wales? Yeah.
Yeah, you need the approval of the Welsh FA.
That'll be what it is then, isn't it?
The
international clearance to come through.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Oldham start with a defeat at Boundary Park. Who would have guessed
Counts
it?
as European football, Oldham v Newport.
Yeah. Might see it in the Europa League in the distant future. That'd be good. Indeed. Mansfield, let's talk Mansfield. They beat Bristol Rovers 2-1, and it was all the referee's fault, according to Joe Barton.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to hear that a lot this season.
Again, it's classic Joey Barton.
Nothing to do with Paul Coates elbowing a man off the ball.
That's why they got relegated, isn't it? It was all the referee's fault.
Yeah, come on. It was a red card. You can't react to a player like that. I know that he was saying Danny Johnson elbowed him in the chest, but please, come on. You know, he's made.
If there's a man who should know what constitutes a red card, it's Joey Barton.
Yeah, he's. How many did he actually get in his career? Do we know?
Many.
If it's not double figures, I'll be shocked.
He certainly got banned for several other things during his career as well, didn't he? But the good thing for Mansfield is Ollie Hawkins, Danny Johnson on the score sheet, 3 points on the opening day against the Bristol Rovers side. That, you know, with the addition of Brett Pittman, I mean, they have some injury problems to start the season, which is not what you want, because they didn't have Brandon Hanlon, they didn't have Brett Pittman, injured players. Their only recognised striker, I think, was Harvey Saunders going into the game. So pretty difficult, you know, to sort of start with the impetus you want in that situation. I know they had Harry Anderson and Trevor Clark sort of supporting. I see Trevor Clark more as a wing-back, full-back rather than...
Yeah, that was a bit surprised to see him in the left wing, certainly.
And they had Thomas just sort of sitting behind Saunders. That will change once their players return, and they'll be a lot better. One player deserves a lot of credit, actually, and again, I would be lying if I said I was hugely familiar with his body of work. Luca Hall, playing at right-back, did exceptionally well. You know, a lot of fans raving about his performance, and I think that's a real positive sign for Bristol Rovers, because was he one of their young players, Ed, that's just coming?
Yeah, he's born in 2002.
You're going to have a think about this season, aren't you?
You're going to see it a lot. I've realised looking through the squads, there's so many 2000 boys.
I found the red cards for Joey Barton. It was he only had 8, which is less than I thought.
8?
He had 117 yellow cards.
But only 8 red cards. In what season did he get the 8 red cards?
Is that straight reds or
He had
double yellows?
He had 3 at Manchester City.
That was in one game, wasn't it? I thought.
I've got his stats up and I forgot he was at Olympique Marseille when he did that fantastic French accent while speaking
Still
English.
one of his best moments. He's had so many iconic moments, that man.
That is the best moment though. Not even trying to speak French, just speaking English in a French accent.
Ibrahimovic has a big
If you've
nose
ever watched
as well.
Chris Waddle's interview, like he did a documentary about his time at Marseille, the whole time he's speaking in English, but he's speaking in a way that it's almost like he's trying to speak it in a French accent.
Yeah, I was wondering if you get like a West Country accent going to Bristol Rovers or something like that.
We'll see. Anyway, so they lose 2-1 to Mansfield opening day of the season. Unnecessary red card. Not the ideal way. John Yems is being John Yems again.
I love
Wonderful.
this.
Wouldn't
Absolutely,
expect anything
love
else,
that
though, would you?
absolutely fuming at their 1-0 defeat to Hartlepool. Firstly, congratulations to Hartlepool for getting a win. Opening game of the season, back in the league. I think we look at their squad. They've added to it since we did our predictions. It's going to be a big ask for them. But I think in Jamie Sterry and in Ferguson, they've got some really good sort of full-backs or wing-backs that they play in that sort of 3-5-2 system. The midfield is exactly as we expected with, is it Holohan? Shelton?
I think Gavin Holland could be the one to watch out that lot.
Well, he scored a good goal, didn't he?
Partly because he shares a name like Houlihan, that's why I'm taking a lot of interest in him, but also because I just think he might be one of Hartlepool's best players.
Yeah, and they had Olamola and Molyneux up front. I was a bit surprised that Molyneux started up front. I was sort of thinking maybe Cullen would get the nod, but maybe he's a bit behind in his fitness. He did come off the bench just for a sort of cameo at the end. But yeah, John Yems fuming at his team. I would hate to be the poor guy interviewing him.
Oh, me too. I mean, as funny as it is, he must be the most horrible man to interview.
I wanted a camera in that dressing room.
It does.
He'd break it, wouldn't he?
I wonder if he actually gets into them or he just stares at them and they just feel his presence.
Doesn't need to say a word, just stands there. Yeah,
Sometimes that's more effective than saying anything.
Exactly.
Though, isn't it?
Does it reduce the number of meaningless questions you get after a match?
Yeah. It's difficult. Asking questions after a game is actually quite difficult because they are generic a lot of the time.
You end up saying the same thing every time, don't you?
Yeah. But with John, he said, you do what you want, mate. I'm not in the mood. Don't talk to me.
I love it.
It's interesting. Go and look. If you haven't seen this, it's on our Twitter timeline. John Yems interview after the game. It's just classic John Yems. Northampton got a good win, 1-0 over Port Vale. Again, red card in this game for Port Vale's goalkeeper, sort of changed things a little bit. But Northampton will be very, very pleased with their opening day win. I thought they'd be. I thought it'd be a tough ask to beat Port Vale. I know Darryl Clark's had this great record of not losing opening games for. Did I see it was like 16 matches or something? Maybe I'm wrong. It was a long time. He had a good run of opening day matches, I think, without defeat. Well, that's come crashing down. I saw Jordan Flores has been made a permanent signing by Northampton. I like that. He started in midfield. I think he's a player that, if he can stay fit, is going to be really interesting to see how he does at this level. A good pickup for Northampton. But an important win for them to start the season positively after a really difficult campaign last year. Tranmere beat Walsall 1-0. Again, nice goal. Callum McManaman taking the plaudits on his debut. To be honest, the best thing about this game was the crowd was excellent, wasn't it? Tranmere, Prenton Park packed out. I think 1,300 Walsall fans in the away end. What do we make of Walsall, Ed? Because this is going to be a season of transition. Doesn't surprise me that they lost to Tranmere on the opening day, but a few positive signs, I think.
Yeah, some positives to take. I think I remember saying we like this team kind of defence up to midfield. We feel like they're missing a bit in the forward areas to really become a really good team. They went with Connor Wilkinson up top yesterday, who I've always felt is still best as a right winger, being able to come in on his left foot. That's what helped with Danny Johnson at Leyton Orient, for instance, making way for him. So maybe there's something still to add to forward areas to be really good. But, this was a case where I think they had a few ex-Tranmere men in their squad going back to Prenton Park and ended up coming back with a defeat.
Indeed, Mickey Mellon, though, pleased to get his side the win. Long campaign to go, but yeah, great to see the fans back in grounds like this. The atmosphere's tremendous, and yeah, Mickey Mellon, good. I think unfinished business certainly. And funnily enough, in his post-match interview, he said the last game that he managed in front of a crowd was Tranmere v Blackpool, which is madness. Because obviously he's been away and managing in Scotland in that time. It just shows you the scope of what this country's been through in terms of the pandemic. Forest Green got off to a good start. Rob Edwards, his side getting a 2-1 win over Sutton. Sutton's first ever appearance in the EFL ends in defeat. Last minute as well, really gruelling. But I thought they gave a really good account of themselves in difficult conditions on that Nailsworth Hill, pouring down with rain.
Yeah.
Lovely looping header from Matty Stevens in this one. And Rob Edwards getting his side off to a good start, Chris, which is against an opponent just come up. You could see this has been a very difficult opening fixture.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a word about Sutton's away fans having to be on that open terrace in that weather, because I've done it myself and it is absolutely grim.
And the worst part about Forest Green is that there's barely any way of getting back home unless you've got a car.
Yeah, I drove. I didn't try.
The buses are not that frequent.
No, they're not. I mean, it is a village of 8,000 people, I think. So, but yeah, in terms of the actual football, exactly what the doctor ordered for Forest Green. They needed to get off to a good start. 'Cause, most people are tipping them for a playoff or an automatic season. I think they did that. It was always going to be tough against Sutton. They won the National League last season, and they've made some decent signings, and more important than anything, they've wanted to get off to a good start in their first ever EFL game, and I think they've done that. But Forest Green will be more than happy to have got off with a good win.
Yeah, Regan Henry's performance was heralded as really excellent on his debut. Ebu Adams scoring the winner, of course, in the 91st minute. Omar Bougiel scoring against his old club, because obviously he was one of the players that was at Forest Green when they came up.
Didn't celebrate.
No, he didn't celebrate, which is I always think that's quite respectable.
It's a classy touch.
It's classy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good to see. Ajiboye is the one to watch out for, I think, in this Sutton team. He had a great season last year, quite a dangerous right winger, and getting an assist in this one. Barrow lost to Stevenage. Stevenage getting the goal, and I think Stevenage will get a lot of results like this across the season. I think there'll be a side that will score not many, but they won't concede, and that can be a really good recipe for a strong campaign. They'll take the win, obviously, all day. Pretty settled side as well. Interested to see that Anand got his a clean sheet on his debut. He's a young goalkeeper. I think he's on loan. Is he from West Ham? Is that right?
He is, yeah.
He's a player I'm interested to see how he does, because no recognisable sort of number 2 for Stevenage, and he's still very young. So that was something I was a bit concerned about that going into the season. Not having any sort of backup if he doesn't quite start well.
Well, they brought Sacha Bastian back in.
Oh, have
I
they?
think it's their second choice at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense, because he's was he 32?
But guess what year Anang was born in?
Oh,
2000. Another one.
You're going to have this all season. You're going to be just looking at people's. What are you going to be like in 5 years' time?
So he's obsessed with people born after 2000 and clubs that are playing each other where players have the same name.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to
Get
hear.
ready for Harrogate Paul Vile. I'm all over that.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? Was it Aaron Martin?
Aaron Martin.
Yeah, Exeter drew 0-0 with Bradford. I was not surprised that this was the final result in this game. Great to see loads of Bradford fans head down to Devon. Hope they enjoyed their time down there. It's a lovely part of the world. Lovely little ground as well, St James's Park. But a 0-0, I'd say, given that these two teams are thought to be the challengers this season, they'll probably both be fairly happy with a point on the opening day. Bradford slightly more than Exeter, given they have to travel down there. But I just have a feeling about Derek Adams' side this season, like you say, Ed, that they're going to be a pretty difficult customer to play against.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Not really.
I caught a little bit of this game, the first half, on the radio yesterday, and Bradford very much sounded like they dominated that first half.
Yeah, again, it's like you say, when you only see the highlights, and the EFL Quest show last night was all over the place. So confused.
Oh, yeah,
Tony.
what happened with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I was so
Didn't get to
confused.
see Leighton Orient goal.
No, I did manage to see it on the YouTube afterwards. But yeah, I do think though you're looking at a goalkeeper in Dawson, who will probably be the best at this level. Cameron Dawson. He does. Yeah. He looks like he'll be a superb keeper.
Is it Threlkeld for Bradford? Sounded like, until he got injured, sounded like he was causing quite a few troubles. Sounds like he got a dead leg.
Well, he was used sort of in the midfield a lot by Salford. I think he's better as a right back. It's more of his natural position.
I agree. And the two cooks leading the line, again, sounded like they were causing some troubles, but weren't.
Big cook, little cook.
Big cook, little cook, little cook, that's the one.
Well, I again, it proves wrong that too many cooks don't spoil the broth. I mean, that's just a load of rubbish, isn't it? Perfect. Angle playing sort of a left-sided attacker in a 4-2-3-1, that shocked me a little bit. To be honest, given his performances in the last couple of campaigns, I was surprised Lee Angle got a move to Bradford.
Yeah.
But this is a Derek Adams signing, isn't it? He'll prove us all wrong and probably be fantastic.
Play of the season.
Yeah, exactly. No Jan Songo'o though.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, imagine if he did top scorer this season at Lee Angle. I would be shocked.
I mean, to be fair, I think in the last 2 seasons the top scorer's come from nowhere, hasn't it? At this level.
It
So
does
it'll probably be someone we just don't see coming.
I predict
It's Kevin Ellison. It's going to be Kevin Ellison.
I predicted it.
I'm ready for it.
Last season. What are you on about, Ed?
Right.
Salford 1, Leighton Orient 1. As I say, Omar Beckles scoring on his debut. Salford picking up a point though, which is probably, I think, a fair reflection of that game.
Cracking strike from Willock.
It was a great goal, wasn't it?
Cracking strike.
Let it roll across his body and just opened it up and curled it into the top corner. Absolutely.
He's just done more in one game for Salford than he did in 2 seasons for Gillingham. Honestly, like having seen that, and when I saw the score and when I saw that he was the one that got the goal, I just thought, oh, gosh, this is typical, isn't it? Come away from Gills and scores a 30-yard thunderbolt in his first appearance.
It was a good goal. It was absolutely superb. Goalkeeping performance of the day. I was talking about Cameron Dawson did well. I think Shamal George takes that. Colchester's goalkeeper made a string of impressive saves to stop Carlisle United taking what would have been a hugely deserved win in a very good performance against Colchester at Brunton Park. This was all kind of overshadowed slightly by Zach Clough's injury 10 minutes before the kick-off and Aaron Hayden being poached by Wrexham like 24 hours before the season starts. It's not gone through.
Wrexham were just signing everyone.
Yeah. And haven't they commissioned a documentary to follow how they do?
I hope so.
Oh, probably.
I really hope so. I love Rob McElhaney.
Do those documentaries, though, actually lead to success? I feel like the Manchester City one did, but all the other ones, the Netflix ones and the Amazon ones,
Sunderland have done really
I was going to say, our Sunderland, like...
And why is no one doing one about Oldham? That would be so funny.
Just be David Wheater interviewed every single day. I'd watch that, actually. That'd be good.
Just be last-minute losses all season, wouldn't it?
It would be interesting. But there you go. League 1 and 2 rounded up for you. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this first podcast of the new season. We'll give League 2 a bit more time next week. I mean, I was aware we sort of had to speed through it a tiny bit. A lot of sort of late goals and low-scoring games in the division to kick us off, which is not a surprise. Opening day can be quite a tentative affair, actually. I was quite nervous. I was more nervous than I thought watching Oxford at Cambridge because I just thought, I've put them bottom in my predictions. It's just going to bite me here, isn't it? It nearly did as well. It nearly did. But there you go. League 1 and 2 round up. Guys, thank you very much for your opinions today.
Yeah, pleasure.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Hope all you new listeners have enjoyed it. We're here every Sunday throughout the season to bring you League 1 and 2 coverage. And until next week, I bid you adieu.